Welcome, everyone, to the Difference Makers. I'm Lynn Sanders, your host, and I'm so excited to share my guest with you today. Our program is Grandma Sparky Shares Her Love and the Blue Ribbon Challenge. I
Mhm,
want to start with a true story. Years
mhm,
ago, I was looking for a guest for my podcast, The Difference Makers, and my computer came up with the name Helise Bridges. Her story was published in Chicken Soup for the Soul, and it was an inspiring story about the power of a blue ribbon that actually saved someone's life. Well, being very intrigued, I made the cold call to this woman, and it became the warmest call I've ever made. I found an amazing, endearing, loving woman who is now known as Grandma Sparky Bridges. And that call not only got me so passionate about having her as a guest, but it represented a friendship that has been very precious to me for over a decade.
mhm,
Grandma Sparky has a movement called the Blue Ribbon Movement, and you can find her site at blueribbons.org. She's known as the First Lady of Acknowledgement, changing the lives of over 50 million people across the world. And her blue ribbon, which has 6 simple but powerful words, have been translated into 12 languages. Those words touch your soul. It's who I am makes a difference. It's words that acknowledge your value in life. And
mhm.
so, without further ado, and with great pleasure, I welcome Grandma Sparky Bridges.
Uh,
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so inspired by what the thoughtful way that you explained me. Um, so thank you for that.
Well,
Um,
you touched my heart from the
mm,
beginning, and you still do. So, for those few people who don't know you, Grandma
right.
Sparky, can you tell us how you got into this movement of creating blue ribbons that make a difference in people's lives?
Yeah. So I'm 78 years young now, and 40 years ago I was a millionaire. My husband and I had a big home on the ocean and all the trappings, and I was mom to two preteen sons, and we were very successful in our careers. But behind and people loved us, both of us. Behind closed doors, my husband was a controlling and intimidating and verbally abusive personality, and I became shriveled up over our 18-year marriage, and yet on the outside, a very successful and prominent uh, person that I was in both, and he was also. And so I decided to commit suicide.
Hmm.
I had been thinking about it a
Oh,
lot, and for everybody that's listening, if you're in an abusive relationship and you find your light going out, that's what happened to me. It just went dark and I couldn't find myself. And so on the day I was going to commit suicide, I screamed to the heavens and said, "Stop the world. I've got to get off and find a place where people love each other." And I was just sobbing. And a voice came through me and it said, "You can't take your life because you're going to teach people how to love and have a musical on Broadway in New York and be a writer. You're going to
wow.
sing, dance, and write." And that's what I heard. And that's what um, popped me like popcorn. And from there, I left my husband. And I'll just tell you that the blue ribbon that I created here
Yes,
came
please
about
share.
because only a month after I left my husband, I found that I needed to matter and make a difference, and I became co-chair of the San Diego Hunger Project. In the next 8 months, I talked to 10,000 people about ending world hunger and discovered that people were starving for love just like me.
Hmm.
And so I
Wow.
created the blue ribbon, and I thought perhaps I'll go and tell people how much I love them and cheer them on for their dreams, and maybe that'll make a difference. And I created the blue ribbon out of my being co-chair of the San Diego Hunger Project and needing to fuel the love that all of us needed.
Yes, we all do need it. So tell us about the creation of that ribbon and how it affected people's lives and saved lives, especially in your chicken soup for the soul story. That's so meaningful.
Yes, so in chicken soup, so in 1988, now mind you, people are starting to honor people with the blue ribbon because I started it, and a teacher in New York decided to honor all of her high school students one at a time. And she placed a blue ribbon on them and gave them a cheering on for their dreams, and then said, let's go a school project on community building. Let's see what that would be like. And she gave each of the kids 3 blue ribbons and said, go out, honor somebody, give them, pay it forward, give them the 2 ribbons, have them honor another person, and come back and tell the story. And in brief, the story that was told is the final, one of the ribbons went to a junior executive who honored his boss on Wall Street and gave the boss an extra ribbon. And the boss went home to his 14-year-old son, sat him down and said, every night I yell at you about your grades and cleaning your room. But tonight, son, I just want to tell you I love you.
Wow.
And I'm going to give you this blue ribbon and cheer you on for your dreams. And the boy started to sob and he couldn't stop crying, walked over to a drawer, pulled out the drawer, pulled out a gun, looked at his dad and said, I was planning on committing suicide tomorrow, Dad, because I didn't think you loved me. And now I don't have to.
Wow.
And that's the story in Chicken Soup. And that's the story that created 50 million people reading that story and contacting our nonprofit and to get ribbons, to honor people, to have me speak and train and design. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that blue ribbon, which looks like it's just a little something, means so much. In fact, I remember when you put it on me when I met you in California, and it brought tears to my eyes.
Yes.
So let's talk about the deep root behind the reason people are so moved behind the ribbon. What problem is it addressing that so many of us face?
I'm really glad you're saying this, because every time I honored somebody personally, they would start crying and saying, nobody has ever told me I matter. People always tell me what I do wrong. Nobody tells me what I do right. Nobody cheers me on for my dreams. They tell me I'm crazy, I'm dumb, but you honor me and then you cheer me on for the dreams. And then you say, here's 2 extra ribbons, honor others and let them know how much you love and value them. And so what happened to me is that I was so filled with compassion because I knew what it felt like not to be loved, and to matter and make a difference for another person and have them honor others. It connects people heart to heart instantaneously. It reminds people that they matter. Our children, reminds our children that they matter, reminds our parents that they've got gifts and they've done everything they can, our bosses, our neighbors. It creates community building. It's the glue. It triggers, we talk about emotional intelligence now. And what happens is when we're in the fight and flight place where we're not enough, and almost every one of us have that conversation, I'm not enough yet. If only I had more money, more time, more something. And all of a sudden you don't have that anymore. All of a sudden you're going, I matter. I mean something. And it just pops us all up like popcorn. It's just like, we come into a whole new generation. And then the science behind this is that, because I was looking for that, I didn't understand, how do I feel so good after I honor somebody? It's like wealth inside of me was like, I didn't need any money. I was so wealthy. I had been a millionaire before, but this was something much bigger. And what I came to find out is that we have this hormones in our body, endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, the body's natural high. When it clicks in, when somebody tells you you love them, it's just like a light bulb goes on, but it's all natural in the body, and it goes boom. And if you've ever felt it, like somebody called you out of the blue when you're feeling down and said, hey, let's go to lunch or something, and you go, wow, and all of a sudden you're showering and shaving,
Right.
like that. You pop up and you don't, all of a sudden you're just, something happens, and that's what it does.
It's the energy. I also want to point out the fact of how this ribbon is helping youth address the biggest problem. It says on your website is, unfortunately, the 3rd largest cause of death among youth is suicide. And I just want to add something to this. When I was in 8th grade, I faced bullying, Grandma Sparky. And I remember my mother had said to me, all you need is one friend, and that's all you need to be able to go on. Because when you go back to school, you're facing those same people again. So tell us about how you work with youth so that this blue ribbon helps change someone's life.
Yes, and thank you, because two things. One is now it's the second.
It was the second cause
It's
of
the
death.
second cause of death among kids 10 to 19 years old. It used to be up to 24, and now is as young as 10 years old. That's recent statistics.
Oh my.
And so our whole program is giving youth a voice to unite humanity through the power of love. And I do assemblies for kids, elementary, middle, and high school. And I will say, if you've ever bullied anybody, harmed anybody, put anybody down, I'd like you to step to the microphone, state your name, what you did, who you did it to, and apologize. Have that person come forward, shake a hand, give a hug. I don't care what you do, but clean it up. And if you've been abused, come up and tell everybody what it felt like to be abused. And if you've got 800 or 900 middle or high school kids or elementary kids, we do it from 4th grade up. All of a sudden, you're hearing true stories. In a minute or less, these kids will get up. By the 200 or 300s, will line up just to get it up and out of the pain that they're feeling. This has been covered by the LA Times full page, Los Angeles Times, the San Diego Union Tribune. It was covered by 600 radio stations, the work that I do on assemblies like that. But we need to just know that we're all feeling as though we've been wounded as kids. And we wound others, hurt people. And the only way to get through that is just to acknowledge what we're feeling authentically and being a safe, supportive place to do that, which is the assemblies that I create, which are very rare. And I was mentored to do that a long time ago.
And what happens at the end of these assemblies? You've told me this before. I'd like everyone to hear this.
Well, this is a really good question that you asked, because in the early days, we didn't have any what comes next. And so I was kicked out of schools because, everybody was so emotional, and school board said, do you have a program after? I go, I didn't. I will tell you what goes on next. What goes on next is kids go home and they honor their parents with that ribbon, or their siblings, or their neighbors. It was so simple we couldn't see it. Wow. The healing happened with the simple blue ribbon. It's a ceremony that said, I'm sorry that I harmed you. I said, go out and honor people. Here's ribbons. Go out and do that. And what occurred back is the stories that came back. And let me tell you one quick story, because I think it's important. And Please. It's Amanda Marie Masters. Amanda Marie Masters is the co-founder of Awake TV Network.live. And she's in she has her kids. She's a mother now of 3 kids these are all trained by me in Standing Strong Together. It's a community building leadership training. And how she found out about the ribbon is she saw me do a podcast, something similar to you. And I honored everybody with this ribbon. And she had seen it, and she goes, I don't know why I'm crying. And she tells her friend who created the podcast, and she said, well, Sparky lives not far from you. Grandma Sparky lives, close to you. And Amanda came over to my home, sat on my sofa, and we're just chatting. And I said, well, one of the things I do is this assembly. And she goes, wait a second. In 1991, were you at Degania Junior High School doing an anti-bullying assembly? And I said, as a matter of fact, I was, and I was going through our archives, and I had the book right on my dresser, on my table there. And I walked over and opened this full page article in the LA Times. I said, you mean in this one? She said, I was in that line.
Oh my.
I had broken my pelvis from a fall, and I was in a wheelchair for a long time, and all the kids were bullying me and laughing at me. And I got up on that stage And I told everybody how much pain I was feeling because everybody bullied me. And when I walked out of, she's telling me the story, and she said, when I walked out of the assembly, the kids ran up to me and they hugged me and apologized, and it was safe in my school after that. And I made a decision that I was going to bring happiness to the world. All these years later, she saw that blue ribbon. Her daughter now, Hannah, who's 17 years old, is one of the global leaders of our program.
Wow.
She just kicked it off in her community, and 50,000 people will be honored because of her in 2021.
How wonderful.
With part of our global campaign to honor 1 billion people.
Wow, what a beautiful story. How what you give comes back to you. That's exactly what you were happening. You know, I want to take a moment and have you, if you won't mind,
Yes.
do the blue ribbon ceremony virtually, because I want everyone to experience this. You know, you can look at words, and I say
Yes.
this many times, that words have power, they have energy,
Yes.
and you can feel them in your soul. But it's one thing to actually have a ribbon physically above your heart as someone is saying the words. So I want you to take a moment now, Halise, for everyone listening to this and beyond who's sharing it, to let's do a virtual honoring ceremony. Would that be all right?
It would be my privilege, because you can see above is this artwork by an artist called Light, who gifted me this piece of art, and this blue ribbon that says who I am makes a difference. So from my heart, through my eyes, I'm sending everybody that's watching this my love. And the ribbon says who I am makes a difference. And it's and I want you all to know that you deserve to be loved. You're valued. You're appreciated. I honor you for going for your dreams, for never giving up, for hanging around the people that will support and encourage and tell you you can do it, because all of us are here for that, for you. And would you accept this gift from me?
Yes, let's
May
all
I?
say yes.
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 And may I have permission to place it on you?
Yes.
And then it goes above your heart. It actually goes up toward all your greatest dreams coming true. It's on an angle. And it's tradition for me to take the spark from my heart and put it in the ribbon. It is the sound that makes dreams come true. And the sound is bing, bing, B-I-N-G. When you hear, every time you hear a bing, you'll know a child within us all just got our dream. And the tradition is for me to give you 2 extra ribbons to pay it forward, to honor somebody and give them another ribbon to honor another.
Beautiful.
At 7-step ceremony, it took 35,000 people were honored in the first 3 months I started this, for us to sit down and talk about what worked. It all was started with 12 people in my home. And I gave them ribbons, and they went out and started honoring people. And then people started wanting the ribbons. And we got the feedback of what worked and what didn't. And the 7-step ceremony I just did, takes less than a minute, was the one that changed people's lives.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. So tell us also how you got the name of Grandma Sparky, because when I first interviewed you, and for years I've said Halise Bridges, so I think everyone needs to know that too.
Yeah, so great. So here it is. So for anybody that has a calling or is a pioneer or up against anything, in 1984, I started all this in 1980, and my nonprofit, the original nonprofit, started in 1983. And I was like, I had to get everybody honored, 1 million people in those days. And I was like a lunatic. And so I started to tell people to call me Sparky so I'd lighten up, because I was just taking my life too seriously. And so people started calling me Sparky. And over the years, people would call me Sparky or Halise or Hey You or the Blue Ribbon Lady. And about 4 years ago, I had one of our great teachers of the year, Luis Lopez, here in San Diego, call me up and said, you're the grandmother of the world for all of us. You help and empower us. You see the best in us. You love us. And I want you to know that you're the grandmother of the world. And I went, whoa. And I went, and he was very, was so endearing. And so I thought, oh, I'll call myself Grandma Sparky. But you mentioned today, and I just want to say out loud that while I've been using that name, I discovered just yesterday, and I want to give a shout out to Nicole Wald, who is helping us build our website even better and greater than it was. That and Walker Brandt, who was on the training with us with other students, and she asked us this question about who we really were to the audience and how to keep it personal. And so she asked us, she gave us a chart, are we a sage or are we a caretaker, or are we a hero, or are we, it was 10 or 15 different names. And so in the chat thing, I said, well, I think I'm a sage and I'm a hero. And Walker says, no, you're a caregiver to all of us. And I went, no, that doesn't sound right. Caregiver. And she said, you're a grandmother to all of us. And I went, oh, when you are it and you don't know it, like I'm in love with everybody I see because I know what it feels like not to be loved.
Right.
And so I see the best in people. I don't go and look at what's not working. And so Grandma Sparky took a new depth this morning because we shared on this before this interview. And I said, it's pretty raw and rare. And also, to know who we are is unfolding all the time. We weren't born knowing who we are. It's to get a graduation certificate, right? You walk out and you go, okay, get married, okay, have children, okay, fix the car, okay. It's like, yeah. And so, buy a new dress, not to give something away. You're a hoarder, you're not a hoarder. I don't know who we are anymore,
Right.
Yeah, I really don't. So,
but the word grandma, okay, to me, it conjures up unconditional love. A lot of parents have stress in raising their children, and children have stress with their parents, but usually you think of a grandmother as someone who's doting on you. And I actually don't know of any other business leader who goes by the name of grandma. So I think it's wonderful.
Wow.
I've never had called you Grandma Sparky before, just, I called you Elise because that's your name, but I love it because it feels loving. And that's what you're projecting to the world. And I think everyone listening who has a chance to hear you or see you will feel that. And that leads me forward to the next step, which is the next step is really, how do people get involved with this movement?
Yes.
And what has the Blue Ribbon movement grown to over the years?
So we have the Blue Ribbon, a global Blue Ribbon challenge.
Okay.
Where 50 million people have been honored with the Blue Ribbon message that's translated in 12 languages. And so a few years back, my colleague said, didn't you want 300 million people honored in America by 2020? And this is years ago, it's like 7 years ago. I said, yes. And Marlene Cover was one of the women in my home when I was going through, we were at 40 million and I didn't know what to do. And she said, that's too small. She said, it has to be 1 billion, 1 out of every 7 people on the planet, knowing that who they are makes a difference. And I went, oh, okay, I'll do that. And, this was after 5 or 6 hours of discussion over a few days with 9 magnificent women in my life at the time who were my mentors and people I looked to. And I went, all right, but who I had to become in order to go from 40 million to 1 billion was a new person inside of me. I didn't know that yet. Like, walk down the street, it's scary when you're in a newspaper and somebody's laughing at you for you or have a blue ribbon, or somebody is dying to get a blue ribbon for you, or you become a paparazzi overnight following you. which is all what happened to me, scares me. You know, I just want to be left alone to honor somebody. Today, I have duplicated my work all over the world with Standing Strong Together. I train youth and adults from 10 years old to up to 80 to duplicate the work and actually teach the honoring process, so that other people can be honored. Let me see if I've answered your question.
Yeah, you know, you in your TED Talk, and everyone, I would recommend taking a look at your TED Talk too, which shares your story. You compare the idea of making a rocket ship propel up into space with how do you build momentum? I think, you know, for most of us, for me, even the idea of reaching 1 million people is a lot of people. 1 billion people. Tell us, what do you do to bring this to 1 billion people? The rocket ship is an analogy that you gave that I'd love you to share.
I love that you said that, because I've used it so often I forgot.
Tell us.
All I thought was, how do you get a rocket ship to leave the gravitational pull of Earth? It needs enough booster rockets, fuel in there, and it only goes 8.5 miles to get out of outer space, and it takes minutes to do that, literally. And so it consumed me. How we get it is basically, one is like my students, like Hannah, who is Amanda Marie Masters' daughter, who's 17 years old, did a whole video on this, a 7-minute video that anybody can see. And she shows us, and she asks the question, how many of you would say that we are more united or divided in our country, in the world? And then she would go on and say, if you said divided, you're probably right, but I have a blue ribbon. I'm going to show you how you can be united. She does the most miraculous duplication of this. And I sent that video out, her video, to schools and industries and businesses across the world. And so now in Singapore, a company called Adam Aku, company, they bought 1,000 ribbons, and they're, you know, in Singapore, the ribbons are going. In South Africa for Julie Steinberg, who is one of our graduates, a student and a mom, and she's executive director for all of South Africa on this project. And she took it on her own. And in New York, I think it's J.K. Dodd Middle School is now the principal of that school. Is she has all of her students involved. In fact, we're getting sponsors for some of her kids to be in our Standing Strong Together program. So we've got people sponsoring. And so how it gets duplicated in all of these countries is just me teaching, or somebody getting a ribbon and calling us up on ordering it right on our website. You can get it virtually for free. You can go right to our website and click on the virtual blue ribbon and just download it on your email, and just, you know, send it. Somebody can cut and paste it, or you can buy the ribbons themselves, or you can ask us about our training programs, or be a sponsor, donate, because we're nonprofit, and for sure.
Right. I was going to say that for the end, that everyone can get free 10 virtual ribbons. Is that correct? Right. At blueribbons.org. And when I went there, I just had to buy a lot of ribbons and your book, and there's a recording. There's so much there, but I want everyone to realize what Grandma Sparky is doing is helping you actually be a spark in that rocket. You're creating all the sparks from around the world, but as she said, you know, one person can't do it alone. So she's uniting humanity, because right now, more than ever, we do need to be united. And the only way to do that is to have love in our hearts. And so that's why I'm so attracted to what you're doing, Grandma Sparky, because I myself went through a period where I didn't know if I felt like living. My mother had suddenly passed away. Wow. And I didn't know why I was even on earth. And I went through a process of reflection and change, and actually even had a near brush with death at one point. But I realized that to honor my mother's memory, I would need to live fully. And that's when I decided to change my company name to Difference Makers Media, and look for difference makers like you who now are, as you said, are creating a global movement that we all can pull in together for.
That's right.
So what I'd like to encourage everyone to do is to take a look at blueribbons.org and consider honoring people, and even people you might not think about, because everybody needs to feel loved, which is so important. So I'd like you to let us know what would be a message you'd like everyone to remember from our time together, and also how they can get involved.
Yes, I would first like to say that it only takes a minute to tell somebody that you love them, that you respect them. And if you go back to, and I'm going to give you one small little story, okay? By the way, the blue ribbon it means first prize. It has an I am in it. It says who I am makes a difference. It says I am, which means that you exist. I am that I am. You exist in God or the universe or however is touching you, you know. So I would invite you to reach out and think about the people in your life, a school teacher, maybe your neighbor, a first responder, your children, and just sit them down for a moment and just look at with your heart. Heart math says, the science of your heart math says that your heart tells your mind what to do. So from your heart, through your eyes, look at your children, your spouse, your neighbor, your friend, your grandmother, your whoever is around you, your boss. It doesn't make any difference. The ribbons, and sincerely say, I have a blue ribbon for you. It says who I am makes a difference, and I'd like to honor you because you've made this kind of difference in my life. And just honor them and always ask permission. Would you accept my gift? Don't go boom on people. It scares the bejeebies out of them. It's not very acknowledging. Just ask them, because it takes two times to receive this ribbon. Would you accept my gift? May I have permission to place it on you? And then you touch. Most people never get touched with love. I place the ribbon above your heart. The minute you say heart, your heart will open up your mind to the highest place, your neocortex of your brain, where all of a sudden you realize that you matter. Then you go, bing. It's the sound that makes dreams come true. It'll make you laugh, and laughter is the best medicine. Give people 2 extra ribbons. Pay it forward. Be part of our billion people. It's Blue Ribbons, BLUERIBBONS.org. Or get in touch with me with Sparky, SPARKY, at blueribbons.org. And I'll respond to you if you put it in there and say a billion people on the in the subject line. I'll answer you right away.
Wow. Wow. I am so thrilled and delighted and honored to have you here, Grandma Sparky. We all need to hear this message. We all need to feel loved. And so let's all tune in to your message of uniting humanity through the power of love with a blue ribbon that will change lives. Thank you so much.
Lynn, you're fantastic. God bless you.
Everyone, thank you all. Please check out blueribbons.org and honor someone with a ribbon. You'll never know, maybe till later, how much it means. Thank you again for listening, everyone. Take care. You make a difference. Bye-bye.